All right, number 4 on Joshua Starnes' top 10 movies of 2012 is the movie Argo, which is the front runner as we do this podcast for Best Picture. Ben Affleck, basically his third film, kind of made a pretty terrific film here. I guess it's on number 4 on your list, Joshua?
It's very good. You know, we've just kind of went and made a detour into the realms of the independent film and the idiosyncratic film, and now we're coming back to where we started with Les Mis, which is the studio film and what the studio film does well. And Argo is about as good a studio film as you'll find in the kind of the classic sense of it. It is I don't want to say by the numbers because that makes it sound bad, and there's really nothing bad about it. But it is a by the numbers thriller that is, you know, in many ways, there's nothing particularly new or inventive about it the way there has been in some of the other movies we just talked about, but it does what it does about as well as you could possibly do it, and it's about pitch perfect. You know, we sometimes say studio film derisively and talk about the only real artistic impulse out there is in small independent movies, but that's not true. You can take a genre like this and just do it, and if you do it really well, that can be an art of its own sort, and Argo is exactly that. You know, it helps that it's based on a true story, or stay inspired by true stories. They've taken sort of typical Hollywood liberties with it, but it's just relentlessly engaging. In a lot of ways, it's the classic, okay, we have the outsider who's been given an impossible task. He's going to go assemble his team. In this case, his quote-unquote team are the people in the embassy. He has to get out. They're going to be doubters. They're not going to think he can pull it off. At the last minute, his brass is going to come and say, well, we don't think you can pull the mission off. It's canceled. He's going to say, well, to hell with you. I'm going to do the mission anyway, and go and pull it off. And that's basically what happens. But, you know, as with a lot of things, it's really in the execution. And Ben Affleck's first 2 movies were extremely well made. I am a tremendous fan of Gone Baby Gone. It was on my top 10 in 2007. I thought then and there that, you know, I thought he should have been nominated for a Best Director Oscar for that. He should definitely be nominated for
and he will.
And he will. And I think he's probably the front runner for multiple reasons. I think he's probably the front runner to win it as well. But this just shows that Gone Baby Gone was not a fluke. You know, what he has from that, what he took from The Town, he has it, and he knows how to make movies. He knows how to make movies work. He's turned out to be an extremely good director. And as much as I like some of the movies George Clooney has directed, I'm very glad he ended up moving away from this, and Affleck took over.
It's okay. The thing about this film and with Lincoln, which we'll talk about in another podcast, is that we know the ending, right? Yeah. So it's like Apollo 13 or whatever, another example. So we already know the ending, so it's basically a movie about how the ending happened, so to speak. And like you said before, this is a classic American film. It's about American heroes. It's based on a true story, and it's got that thriller aspect, exactly how you describe very elegantly, with the second act twist, and then like the third act twist where I'm going to go rogue kind of a thing. Americans love this type of film, and it's a very good film at that.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because even though it's not really an American story, it's really a Canadian story that America has co-opted the way we do with everything, because there's a general feeling, and it's actually borne out by who goes to see what at the movies, that Americans won't go see movies that aren't about Americans. Unfortunately, to a small degree, that's not too far.
How about it's a co-production? It's a co-Canadian American hero story.
It is a co-production of North America. It is a North American film, is what it is. But it's extremely well done, and even though you know the ending, I think this goes to show Affleck's skill, and what makes this movie work is really Affleck as a director. Affleck, because it's an ensemble. Even though Affleck's the star and he's in every scene, his character is very, very low key. He's kind of glower, and he's trying to keep all this stuff together. And it's a good performance. It's a good enough performance to carry the film. It's not great. It's not as good as he was in The Town, even just a couple of years ago. But and then the rest, while you have some people who pop up and do really great jobs, like you have a couple of scenes with Bryan Cranston and a couple of scenes with Alan Arkin and John Goodman, who are all extremely entertaining and provide comic relief without being comedy. But it's really a director's movie, and the strength of that you can actually see in the ending, where if you know the history, you know how it ends, and yet even then, when they are racing out of the airport and they're getting on the plane and the guards are in their trucks trying to stop the plane from taking off, you're still on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, totally.
Because Affleck has just done that good a job at turning the screws and keeping the tension up, and that's very hard to do.
It's extremely hard to do, but you mentioned Affleck's performance as well, and as a great director that he is, he basically said, okay, this is the role, I'm going to give everybody their scene. So if you, like, from an actor's point of view, everybody has a scene, well, Affleck's playing the reactor, like you're saying in the other podcast, but basically he didn't have, like, if you put this performance in, like, say, a movie star's role, like Tom Cruise or whatever, they would have a speech, or they would have, they would be the hero, but he just plays it like on down the line, you know what I mean?
He really does. I mean,
yeah.
He does what needs to be done. He doesn't take over, he doesn't try to grandstand. He's definitely the star of the film, but he's usually, in most of his scenes, he's standing in the background.
Exactly.
Other people have their moment. He's sort of carrying the plot around. He gets a few bits early on where he gets to go in and tell people, no, this is what our plan is going to be. This is what we have to do. And and when he tells the State Department, I'm going to go through with the mission anyway, but he doesn't do too many of those for the most part. Yeah, he's there to carry the plot, but he's not making it about him. He's making it about the story.
So Affleck, like, let's finish this off with this. Like, you figured Good Will Hunting that Matt Damon was going to be the star in the auteur. Then Affleck just turns things around in the last 5 years, and he's got almost a Clint Eastwood career ahead of him.
It's very, very interesting. He definitely has talent as a director, and he has a real career ahead of him as a director, which we've never seen Damon direct something. He's done, some writing. He's gone off to be the probably the more successful actor with some of the choices he's made, and it became kind of a thing where, oh, well, Affleck tried to be a movie star while Damon tried to be, was a real actor, and it turned out it worked better for Damon. And now that's sort of turned around. I think it's particularly interesting this year where you have Affleck doing such a good job with ARGO, while Matt Damon has spent such a long time getting Promised Land off the ground and getting it made, and he co-wrote it and starred in it, and it doesn't work at all. So it just goes to show you never know. I don't think either one of them were flukes in Good Will Hunting. There was certainly an idea for some time that he was sort of carried to that Oscar by Matt Damon, and I think that I don't know if ARGO proves the opposite, but it definitely shows he has talent and skill as a filmmaker on his own that he doesn't have to apologize to anyone for.
And there's one thing that, in terms of the Oscar, we can preset this up, is that one thing that the Oscar people they like American stories, and they like actors, directors as well. If you look at the history, they like giving actors best director wins.
Well, actors like giving actors best director wins.
Yeah, Mel Gibson, Warren Beatty, Robert Redford, list goes on, right?
I think a lot of it is the fact that the acting portion of actors make up by far the largest selection of the Academy.
All I'm trying to say, it looks like it's nailed up for Ben Affleck.
It's for a lot of reasons, for a lot of other directors having already won recently, for Affleck having not won, for ARGO being so good,